right, welcome to Five Stones Podcast. I am Raymond Modulin, aka the Real Estate Monkey, and with me today I've got two of my fellow usual co-hosts. Colin, how are you today?
Good morning. I'm Colin Hedegaard. I am the Great Dane, as you can see from the subtext of my title below. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. I am Joe Trester, and I am the Real Estate Advocate.
Well, welcome to today's show. I hope everybody has enjoyed the last couple weeks with Mr. Haggard, Craig Haggard on here. And today, as I sit here and count 1, 2, 3, I notice there's no fourth chair. So no one has taken us up on the offer to come on and be a fourth chair with us. If you're interested out there and you'd like to talk about something, feel free to hit this up in the comments, and our producer will reach out to you and schedule, and you can come on and you can help change our mind or agree with us, either way you want. Also, don't forget, hit the like and the subscribe button. One is it will help us out tremendously, and two is it will allow us to get to more people to help spread the gospel, so to speak, of all of us. So one of the things we do uniquely here, different than most other people, is we tend to enjoy our own cigars. I am at a New World Maduro, which, as Joe has said many, many times, pretty much a monogamist in the cigar world, as this is my go-to cigar. What do you guys got?
I'm smoking an Oliva today, but I'm coming to the end of it, so be something else later.
I am having a unique cigar called the Island Jim. It came with a pack of cigars that I ordered online. It's actually not too bad. It's different.
That's actually where I'm at. I'm in my Island Jim resort, secluded island that nobody can get to. So our cigar would fit.
It's the cousin of Maui Jim.
Yeah, and of course on our resort island we have Speedway.
That's convenient.
Well, they're everywhere, they say. So today we're going to talk about several kind of loose topics that are loosely related. One of the things that we had talked about was this whole NAR thing that's going on. And I know we've ridden this horse and beat it to death, but maybe we should look at it from a different angle, from the perspective of Colin's angle, which Colin owns Five Stones Mortgage, or perhaps a title insurance direction, or some other business that's going to be loosely related to this insurance. I need to comb my hair.
Oh, it's fine. Yeah, I think that some of the chatter, there's been a lot of chatter the last couple of weeks, which I think is a good thing for the community to start figuring out how they're going to take advantage of opportunities or deal with issues. Some of the
He got so excited that he left us.
Bye, Colin. I'm sure he shall return. What he was, I think, trying to say was that there has been a large push on our side of the table, the real estate world. Joe and I are in the real estate world. That seems to be where we're like, they're going to solve the problem. There he is.
Oops.
He got so excited he shut his computer off.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. You're right. What I was getting at is that, we've been some of the meetings and talks, I've heard them some pointing to the lender side to quote unquote figure this out. Which I'm fine with that. I want to be part of the solution if we can. If the solution requires changing guidelines with Fannie and Freddie, that's going to be years down the road. Probably they can issue emergency guidelines, I think, but it's going to be a slow roll.
Doesn't Freddie Mac have the ability to do emergency rulings?
Yes, they do emergency rulings, which they may, but even those kind of things come after 6 months or 12 months of analysis or discussion. So
That sounds like the emergency room I just went into the other day, because obviously their definition of an emergency was different than my definition of an emergency.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I think you'll see all kinds of interesting solutions coming out. Some might be from the lender. Perhaps there will be some kind of, unsecured loan for financing other parts of the transaction. I don't know what other role the lender has, but there probably will be new documents and paperwork that'll be included in purchase agreements, right? Which is going to be a change for us and title companies looking over these things we aren't used to seeing. Even if they've existed, they may haven't been utilized.
yeah. And now a word from our sponsor. All right, welcome back. And I didn't mean to interrupt Colin because I know that. Let me turn my phone off because I'll get yelled at by the producer if my phone goes off. Didn't mean to interrupt you, but yeah, that seems to be a common thing where realtors are all trying to push it onto the lender's going to have to change the amount of concessions. And Joe, I know you want to chime in.
That's my biggest complaint, and I want to sound really mean because I'm a real estate professional as well. But why is it when there is a change, everyone always expects someone else to make the change for them, and they're not willing to make a change themselves? I mean, here's a creative thought. We have new rules. Instead of finding ways to do things outside of the new rules, use the new rules. Do what you're supposed to do. Don't spend all of your time figuring out how you can cheat the rules. Just use the rules.
Yeah.
Now, there is a caveat to that I think they've done a very, I'm going to use the phrase piss poor way of explaining things, because you get something in writing and then you get a video from someone and then you get some blog post. I mean, that you never get anything definitive. They can't even give us a definitive date when everything is supposed to hit. Now, part of that is because this is all, in my estimation, still theoretical, because you haven't had a judge that said, yes, you can do this yet, that has accepted it and said that this is going to work. So we may still have another monkey wrench thrown into it. And it is very possible the financial world will do something because they think that the consumers are going to be harmed by not being able to do things. But they're certainly not doing it because they care about whether a real estate broker is doing anything differently or not. They are not there to help us. Lenders are there to help the people borrowing money.
So how do we see this affecting the title world? Now, I know that I'm a licensed title producer or insurance producer, and we teach that at Real University. But I see a plethora of new forms that are going to have to be incurred by them as well.
Well, I heard you answer a phone call the other day, and the title company said, "Hey, just want to check how the commissions are supposed to be written on this Alta or whatever." I don't think it'll be that simple anymore, right? They're going to have to get the documents, get the service agreements, figure out which line they're going to put it on. There will be a little bit of a growing pain, but there's more paperwork involved.
I immediately see one other document under the NAR's proposed, like Joe said, issue is that you work under a written buyer's agency agreement, which I recommend to all my agents anyway. But that's going to be a document now that probably will be one more added to the stuff we send to the title company. So that phone call actually may not be made now, because they will actually get something from the selling agent that says, hey, my buyer client's going to pay 3%, and they'll just go ahead and put it on the, his side of the deal. But I do see some growing pains in that industry as well.
If the commissions are paid in a different way other than out of the proceeds at the closing, does it still have to get disclosed? Because in my world, even a fee that the borrower doesn't pay has to get disclosed. If I pay it or the seller whoever pays it, I wonder if that'll show up differently if they put it on their credit card to pay their agent, as an example.
I would imagine under the RESPA law, don't we still have to capture all of the fees, whether they're the term POC you see a lot, paid outside of closing, much like the credit that they pay in advance out of their credit card when they get their credit pull.
Yeah.
Isn't that captured as well? It's just not added because it's POC, paid outside of closing.
Yeah, there's a line POC. Is that exists on the Alta too? I suppose that's more of a real estate document. Our documents show all those fees.
Well, up until now, there has never been. And this is one of those things when people say, "Well, can you do?" And my answer is, "Well, it's never been even considered in 100 years." So I don't know if it can or can't because there's no rule that specifically states the agent's commission has to be on the final CD or the HUD, because it always has been, because it was paid by one of the clients.
Well, and it's always affecting the overall price of that property in some form or another, which is why it's on there. So now if somebody, like if the buyer decides, well, I don't want this rolled into the loan, I'm just going to pay you outside of this to represent me. If it's not affecting the overall cost of the property, I'm not sure that it will have to be on that form because it doesn't do anything to affect that.
I agree with that, except I'm going to go back to the example I just mentioned. When Colin charges the client for a credit pull, it doesn't affect their final answer either, but yet RESPA says it still has to be on there to show that it was charged and paid, and it's just paid outside of closing. Now, the other example of that that's negative would be the home inspection. The home inspection is paid outside of closing to a third-party vendor, and that is never captured on the. So we've got kind of two examples where one is captured and one is not. When it's
well, the one that's captured though is going towards the lender, and I think that's why it has to be shown, because it is going towards the entity that is loaning the money. Whereas the money that's going towards the home inspector doesn't have.
Well, that's not true, right, Colin? The consumer pays for that credit pull outside of the closing. That fee is not.
We the way we operate is we pay for it and then we recoup it at the closing, and the borrower pays for it.
That's not paid outside of closing. That one does affect them. But if someone were to come in the old days and pay the credit, I still remember it seeing captured on there, and it would just say paid outside of closing. But like I said, the home inspection is not captured, and it's paid outside of closing if they have one. So I do see a lot more paperwork involved from the title side as well. And there's a whole bunch of other people that, we have kind of talked about. What about, and I'm going to bring this up, and I know I was told not to, auctions, where an auctioneer determines how much the buyer's agent's commission is going to be. Is that the next profession that somebody may be going to look at? Because in essence, that's what the listing agent used to do, was currently still does until it gets approved. The listing agent would determine how much the buyer agent got, 3% or 2.5% or 1%. In an auction, they're kind of doing the same thing still.
I think it's an interesting alternative to traditional listing, and how the commissions and things will be worked out. There's a number of models, but
I think that we need to have our producer write that down. That might be a good entire topic to discuss. And the producers at work. That might be a good entire topic for us to actually go over, our alternative methods of sale, where obviously an auction could be one of the top contenders in that. And I think that's a good thing. We may have an end that we may be able to get an auctioneer on here pretty soon. Throw that out. So that is some different areas that we got to think about that's going to affect other parts of this industry. Is the lender side, the title side. I also foresee, and we have talked about this before, are you going to see more attorneys trying to get in the business of becoming an agent when a buyer's agent tries to explain to their buyer client that you're going to pay me $12,000 for this, and that consumer wises up and goes, dude, I can actually hire a full-fledged practicing attorney for half of that.
Yeah, I think this is if I was an attorney or in the business of law, I would be looking at this as an opportunity to swoop in and capitalize, because I think that you're exactly right. If you could have legal representation, if the state allows it.
Well,
uh,
currently,
versus-
Indiana does not require practicing attorneys to be licensed. Now, I know plenty of attorneys that are in the business. I know 2 that actually are licensed, went through the school, got through, and are licensed. I know 2 or 3 that are not technically licensed from the real estate commission that still practice real estate because of their law degree. So I envision, I've already had this discussion with at least one attorney on how he could perhaps get involved in this in some manner, using the guise of, why use an agent when you can use a licensed attorney?
It seems interesting that normally when you think of an attorney, you don't think of them having a value proposition, but
Well,
paying an attorney $3,000 is a value proposition to paying someone else 10 or 15.
yeah. So I foresee that battle also coming. I've talked to another agent that he's a great agent. He's a good friend of mine. I golf with him. He said, I can't imagine myself sitting across from a buyer at Starbucks explaining how you're going to pay me $12,000 to help you buy this $400,000 house. So that is probably going to be an issue as well.
I think that the spirit of all this is obviously meant to create disclosure to the consumer and protect them and have them involved in negotiating whatever. But the time is now to seek the opportunity or seek the solutions. And I'm entertained because I remember a course. It was my wife was taking a master's course for change management, and they had this change model. And it ultimately came down to this: you introduce change, everyone resists it and grovels and hates, and productivity goes down temporarily, and then they embrace it later, and productivity goes up to a new level.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of what Joe was mentioning, and I think that's why the easiest thing in change is to push it to someone else, because no one wants to change.
Mm-hmm.
They all want to resist that. And I don't know how many times in my career, and you guys have heard it in your respective careers, well, I've been doing this like this for 25 years. That's the way we've been doing it. Well, it may not be now. So there's going to be a huge change if this proposal gets accepted. Joe mentioned several shows ago that he believes it will get accepted because they probably already worked this out in the back room where everybody said yes, yes, yes. And now it's just the formality of accepting it, which is why I think, Joe, you do see a lot of the NAR stuff saying, here's how you're going to do it. Here's how you're going to do it. Because I think they already know in their back pocket, they've already got the acceptance.
Well, let's be real. They wouldn't come out and say anything if they didn't feel like it was a done deal.
Yeah. Now, the only thing I will say to that is the Department of Justice still has a lawsuit against a couple of MLSs on the East Coast. And I don't think they have agreed insofar as what they're calling now, the term is decoupling the commission, so that the listing agents commission and the buyer's agents commission are decoupled, which in essence is what the NAR is trying to do, is make it two separate. And Colin said this, it's just now more transparent to everybody. And I believe that the buyer's going to go, holy shit, I'm paying for that. And I hear people all the time go, well, buyers aren't going to want to pay for that. Well, in theory, they should be paying less for the property because that part of the commission is now not baked into the price. It should be selling for less.
This is coming at a time when the market has some other challenges, which I think would help everyone more if affordability was a little bit more, if people could afford houses and things, the market swung back to getting busier, we would have a faster implementation of new ideas.
Well, my concern with all of this is I'm going to use the automobile industry as an example. What we've done now with some of these proposed changes, you have people, me included, that will trade in a car when they're underwater and roll that into the next car that they're getting and worry about the price later. So now that people can't roll their fees for their realtor into the price of that house and then just pay for it over the time that they're there, it's really going to change a lot of things. I mean, it'd be like me going into a car dealership tomorrow and they're saying, well, no one allows you to roll negative equity into your next vehicle anymore. You have to pay that off in full before you can get this next one. It would just absolutely put a screeching halt on things. And I think it is going to put a screeching halt on things for people that are really teetering on the edge. There's a big difference between having $3,000 baked into a 30-year loan or $3,000 coming out of your pocket at that exact moment to do what you want to do. So it's going
3,000 over 30 years is like 6,000, but they don't.
It is, but they don't view it that way. They look at your monthly payment, which is what people look at when they're buying a car. Can I afford that monthly payment? They're not caring. They look at interest rate and monthly payment, and they look at nothing else. And it's just it's going to be a major change. It's going to require us to educate people as we go. And that's one of the biggest gripes I've had lately is everyone's doing everything based off of headlines. And we saw all these headlines. Yahoo had a headline of 6% commission has gone away. Well, it hasn't really gone away. It's just being split up and being handled different ways. And it didn't have to be 6%. All of these things, and people read that and think that things are just so much different, and they are different, but it doesn't mean it's gone away.
Yeah, they're redefining the word commission, and that's where they don't make that clear. I watched a video the other day of somebody talking about, the headlines, people gaining all their information from just headlines. Who would that have been? That might have been the Real Estate Advocates podcast.
Maybe.
Talking about that. Just the headline. And back to the affordability. What a better time to put a big major change in the real estate process than when the interest rate's the highest it's been in probably 10 years. Right, Colin?
Yeah, well, rates have, lately have indicated maybe inflation is not under control. Not too many people talk about the real problem is that the government's printing money nonstop. There's no sign of changing. So it's a tougher time to afford a house. And I saw that video I sent you the other day. Somebody was on the news saying exactly that. In many places in the country, the average family is out of touch with what they can't buy an average house.
Yeah, but you got to listen to those headlines. All the headlines say that the economy is great, everything's better, we have more jobs than we've ever had, and people are getting more money in their pocket because of all of these lovely laws that we're passing and everything else. So, I mean, it can't be true, right?
The thing that I got from that video, and by the way, did that video guy consult you? Because Colin has been saying this for about 2 years now, that the average homeowner or the average worker cannot afford virtually the average home. Colin's been saying this for 2 years. One of the things it showed is in was it 72, the average income, if you normalize that to today's dollars, middle class would need to be making $174,000 to keep up with the price of the home.
Yeah. Well, that video that I sent you showed, I mean, if you want to buy an average house, you got to be making over $100,000, $110,000.
Yeah, it said 100 grand, and that's if you had no other bills, no cars,
No car payment, no
if you
credit
had
cards.
a car and a credit card that said it was like 125.
Yeah.
You got to be making
So-
125. And I remember a statistic. Now, this is an old statistic. It probably hasn't changed a lot. But at one point, California was spending 51 cents out of every dollar for their home, while Indiana was only paying 17 cents. It was like 3 times the amount in California. Those numbers have probably proportionally increased. So obviously the Midwest, because that said the average home was 450,000. Well, not in Indiana. Indiana, the average home right now is about 275 or 280. So what I'm saying for all you California people, you need to be
Run.
Yeah, you need to be in Iowa.
Oh, they are. They're running. Don't you worry.
As
We're
Evan-
bumping up against time today, right? So, but over the next few episodes, I think we'll talk about some tools to help with affordability. I think maybe next time that would be a good idea.
Yeah, I think we should talk about those tools that you guys use. You at fivestonesmortgage.com uses those, and you use those with your clients. So if there's clients out there looking to buy a home, get a hold of Colin with Five Stones, because he's got some tools that can help you either determine your true affordability or figure out where that affordability and price range is. So that would be good. Any last closing comments, Joe?
Yes. So there's one thing I want to bring up, even though I know we're running out of time. My big fear is, and we've talked about this a lot, is because of this disruption in the market, we are going to see wholesalers going after people hardcore for their houses and trying to talk them into selling things cheaper because, well, the real estate market and real estate brokers it's all going to be a big mess. So I'll just give you this cash up front and get this house and talk them out of it and turn around and sell it on the back end. I just see it coming. It's going to happen hardcore on people. And we've talked about how much we have a distaste for the wholesaler in general, because we feel like they're preying on people. And we both agree, well, I think all three of us agree, that it may not be legal. And it isn't legal in some states. And I just see it coming. Every time.
I think we need to actually make that a topic as well, because there is a lot to unpack in that, how wholesalers work and how in very few cases they might be advantageous, but typically they're not. So
I'd like to have a wholesaler on here just to learn more about how the thought process is on their side.
I would love to have a wholesaler come on and try and change my mind. So if you do wholesaling out there and you're listening, we have got a 4th seat available for a show or two. If you'd like to come on and explain how the advantage that you have over a normal buyer, that would be excellent. Just put a comment down there and our producer will get a hold of you for that. All right. And that goes out. Producer, get that. Gentlemen,
It goes back to my favorite phrases, though. Predatory buyers.
Yeah.
Prove me wrong.
That's inflammatory, and I like it.
I like it.
Next time I will try not to have my beach head going. Ocean water is terrible on your hair. So
I know. That's why
I may have to go to your style, except I don't have quite the shiny head. Mine's more lumpy. I don't think I would do well with your crew cut. Gentlemen,
baby oil,
guys, and invite you. And don't forget, if you're out there listening, go ahead and push the subscribe and the like button. It will actually help both of us out if you do that. It'll keep you informed on our next episode. And it's always good for our statistics. And hey, after all, it's all about us, right? Guys, thank you. Have a good day. I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Harumph.